Others might have less complimentary names. Whatever the case, for many who live on the land out here, faith is a definite requirement. Faith in the God who creates all life and preserves it, who rejoices in our gains and redeems all loss. Rod Huisman is one who understands this perhaps better than most. A farmer, conservationist, and lay minister, Rod was raised to love the land and the God who made it. Interviewed in summer, Rod talked about his upbringing in the great outdoors of Washington State.
I've been involved in Boy Scouting for as long as you can be in a Boy Scout. So I would guess maybe even before that, camping as a family. If there was a reason we missed church, it was because we were camping. We as a family just all the time were involved outdoors and fishing, hunting. I knew how to identify most ferns probably by age 5, so I've been around. All of the parts involved in farming are so complex that if you miss nature, you're missing farming. So an example is watching a calf be born, or watching a chicken hatch, or life, and actually death also. Not everything lives forever. I grew up in a church family. From as young as I can remember, Grandpa played guitar and Mom and all of her sisters and brothers sang. And so even the extended family outside of my own home, very involved in music, and very involved in singing of the old hymns. The Old Rugged Cross was the first one that was ever played or sung at all of the events. And so from as young as I can remember, all the way up through high school, for which I served in all of the church committees that a youth was allowed to serve in, from pastor parish relations committee all the way to finance, to the building committees. I grew up in a church family, so I don't really know any different. We moved in Washington my senior year, and I know that I was leaving my family of friends, the school I had attended for the previous 10 years. I started in that school in the second grade. So I was leaving my senior year the school that I had attended, since the second grade, and it was my faith that got me through that. And it was the youth group when I got there to the second town that aided in my success, I guess, aided in helping me through that transition. The faith is what brought me to the people who I then hung out with, the people who I considered friends. We had a common ground wherever we are, wherever Christians are. I grew up in Northwest Washington, where there isn't a single straight road because of all the cricks and all of that. Around here, roads are straight. And they're marked off in 1 mile increments. Well, up there in Washington, they're not, because there's no way you can. The hills and the cricks and all of that. So the church we attended had a very large garden in the back, and so I don't know how else to word it, but nature and the location, and it's all one. I've done a lot of things in my life. And I guess they start probably about age 10 or so, when I picked berries at the berry farm, and so you get paid by the pound there, and so your hands would come home red, and your tummy would be full. And then as I grew older, I got to 14, I worked for a chicken farmer. And I shoveled processed chicken feed. So then I moved on, still at the chicken farm, in through high school, and even after high school, the chicken farm sounds a little silly, but this chicken farm had a lot of construction, and it also had robotics to feed the chickens and egg processing machine. My boss had picked up pretty early that I was good with mechanical things and hands-on, so he didn't really have me picking eggs much. He had me working the construction side. Then I went in the Navy, and I was an electrician in the Navy. Essentially, I was into sonar, sound, and so I picked up, distant submarines using sound. It's kind of a challenge when you think about it, but it's actually simple when you get down to it. And then I got out of the Navy and went to college, and I was still working at the chicken farm and attending a community college. And that's when we built the fully automated chicken house. And then we also built a compost building that would compost the chicken manure with wood chips, etc. And so we got into biology too, and how the wood is being broken down through the wood and the chicken manure being broken down through the biological process of composting. And then I became vice president of the corporation called Hi-Q Enterprises there at the chicken farm. And so I got into a little bit of the finance and marketing and the whole process involved in chicken farming. And then as things weren't going as smoothly as they needed to at the chicken farm, I came out here to South Dakota and started as a mechanic and working my father-in-law's beef, cattle, and crop operation, and pretty much are still doing that today. To be honest with you, I don't know how you could continue without faith. How many farmers would put thousands and thousands of dollars in the ground without the faith that the crop would come up, or all of that? It's an amazing process. It's taking from a seed to a full-grown plant to reproduce seed. How do you explain that without faith? I don't know. If a farmer goes out there and sprays chemicals, he kills what God created, the microbes, the bugs that he is claiming as a problem, when actually those are. When we use broad spectrum herbicides or broad spectrum insecticides, etc., fungicides, they don't kill just the bad ones, they kill the good ones too. And there is some research that shows that it's anywhere between 10 and 100 to 1, the bad guys to good guys. So if you have one bad bug and you go out there and kill all of them, you also killed all the good guys. And so helping people understand that, and then looking at our own life here as humans, do we kill the guy that went and robbed the bank, or how do we do that? What's the appropriate action? Well, in nature, you don't go out and kill all the good guys because of one bad guy. It is difficult to be in agriculture and conservation right now. The commodity crops prices are low, cattle prices are low, there is not a lot of profit.
Rod also works for the National Resources Conservation Service. Yet another way he lives out his faith in the God who seeks to create and preserve life in all its forms.
The concept behind conservation is conserving. And for example, one of the things we like to do is take half and leave half of the grass. There's a lot of science that goes in behind that and how grass grows, but why should we leave half of it there when we have to pay the bills? Why don't we get a few more cows and eat all of the grass and pay the bills? Well, that's a challenge. And to understand that if you take half and leave half and do it often enough in the grass situation, you can increase the amount of grass production you have. Then you get to increase the number of cows. You can't take it all of the time and expect nature to continue to give.
Changes in the ag economy and in the local church recently moved Rod to take his faith yet one step further and answer God's call to be a lay minister for 2 United Church of Christ congregations.
I became a lay minister in part because of need. But to be real honest with you, I've denied God 4 times. I have told him no, that I didn't want to serve him 4 times. And this time I felt he hit me upside the back of the head hard enough that it hurt. So how do I move forward when God's telling you to do something and you're running? It doesn't work. Where are you going to hide? He's pretty powerful guy, and I know from scripture, etc., that if you deny him enough times, you're going to be, in a little bit different situation. So finally, I said this time, yes, I will listen. And I have become a lay minister because of that. And I think things are going okay. I feel that in part I am able to be, I'm going to use the word successful, though I want to be limiting on the word success here, that I am relating to people who I consider peers that are doing the same kind of things that I'm doing. Whether I would be successful or not in a church in the middle of the Bronx or downtown LA would be a different story. Where is God leading me? Right now, it's here. Children play an important part of my life. I do believe that God put me here to take care of children. I've been a foster parent now, going on 15 plus years. Have had somewhere around 75 children through my home through the foster care system, and have adopted 2 out of the foster care system, and 2 boys of my own, so that's 4 boys. I feel sorry for my wife. But being a farmer, that's, in my opinion, the greatest place to raise a child, because we can give them responsibilities and help them understand life, birth, and at times death. Things that they have taken care of and have done their best, and honestly have done my best as well. The child learns that life is precious. It does go away. And so my faith and nature and farming and understanding all of these things, I feel that farming is the best place to raise a child, and that's why I am here. That's what I'm doing here. That's the center of my purpose.